Facebook.
Nonetheless,
for Facebook. Nonetheless, though, we're going to put it closer to you because, as I said, my voice tends to travel. So, hey, what's up, everybody? Happy 2019. We are the AZ Flip guys. That is CashFlow Kris. This is CashFlow Creator, and we are just two ordinary guys doing extraordinary things, talking about real estate, mindset, and everything in between. And oh my God, dude, are you fucking excited for 2019?
Dude, this is the year. This is the year to end all years. It's gonna be financially free this year.
Oh my God, for sure. So not only are we gonna be financially free, but actually once we close on this deal here, next week, we will be officially millionaires. Oh, high five for that. That's what I'm fucking talking about.
It's not as good as it sounds.
No, not at all. Not at all. And that's the thing with business and life in general is that it's never as bad as it seems, but it's never as good as it fucking seems either.
Right.
You know, when people are out there and they're looking at things that they don't know, I keep on saying it. This is something where I met you. I met you at an event, and we'll talk about Troy here in a second. But you heard me say this in my speak. I don't know if you were there or not, but nonetheless, I said the wolf in your head is worse than the wolf in real life.
Yeah.
The wolf in your head is worse than the wolf in real life. What you don't know, it's what's going to be the scariest thing out there. So I had somebody a while ago, and this was a long time ago, but anyway, I had somebody that accused me of domestic violence. Now, that was something that obviously didn't happen, but the fact that I didn't know how that was going to play out was the scariest part out of everything. It was, once I talked to the lawyer, once I talked to my friends that were cops, and they're like, hey, don't worry about it. This type of shit happens all the time. Here's the process. Here's what you can expect. Everything was a lot more. And the reason why I use that analogy is because here in real estate, one of the scariest things that people don't even touch or even get into, and I know because I fell into that trap, was notes, making notes, creating notes, becoming the bank. And there's something that we've all heard, there's something that we all agree, but the biggest buildings in any fucking city that you go to are owned by banks.
Right.
And what banks do is banks create notes.
Mm-hmm.
Banks trade notes, banks sell notes. They do all kinds of different things with notes. Mm-hmm. So that's actually who we're going to be talking to here. We got our buddy Troy Fullwood, who is actually somebody that I met at the Kingdom event. As you guys can see, he's got his book over here, The Power of Paper. And we're actually going to get into that, and we're going to talk about paper specifically. So if you guys are interested, have ever been interested in notes, in investing in notes, have any questions about notes, the different types of notes, that's a great thing that we have here to do it live.
Right.
Now, we do have our podcast, and if you guys are listening to us on Podcast Land, do us a favor, make sure you give us a 5-star review, make sure you subscribe, and make sure that you join us live on our Facebook, because you might be watching this you might be hearing this on a replay. Once we upload it on our podcast, obviously we're not doing it live, but if you go to facebook.com/AZFlip guys, every Friday at noon Arizona time, we're doing a live show where you can actually ask questions. Mm-hmm. Now, not only do you have that opportunity to interact, share your opinions, share your comments, but also ask questions, not only of myself, of Chris, but of our special guest. And one of the things that I do most of the time is I give credit where credit is due. I want to know, like, hey, look, I'm good at doing this. However, I don't know shit when it comes to doing this. And one of the things that I really don't know a lot about is notes. One of the things that I've been looking a lot into is notes. I am a self-proclaimed lazy investor. I will say that forever and ever and ever. I have a great work ethic. I know how to work. I've done a lot of labor work growing up. I was working since the age of fucking 12 or 11, something along those lines. I know how to work, and I'm a very good worker. I just don't like to work. It's just something that if I don't have to do it, I would prefer not to do it. And you know what? If most people were honest with themselves, including all these fucking I work all day business owners and shit,
right,
they really don't like to work.
Right.
It's a kind of a persona. It's kind of like this bullshit line that they feed themselves. And you know what? Every once in a while, there's people like a Grant Cardone, or there may be somebody like a Gary Vee who, and got, I don't know them personally, so I don't know if they do work or not a lot. But somebody like them, let's say that what their persona is true and they do like to work 100 hours a week, those people are freaks. Like, that's not your normal everyday
And I don't think
person.
it's loving. I don't think it's loving working. I think it's loving being busy. Because, man, after a few days off hanging around the house, I was bored. I wanted to do something. And if I'm not traveling, doing something fun, shoot, I might as well go to work.
Well, I think the thing about work is that you want the freedom to choose what you want to do. So if you want to go back to work and do a couple deals, you can do that. But if you don't want to do that and you don't have to do that, then you don't do that.
Oh, choice. Yeah. Choice is a beautiful thing. All right, so why don't we dig into this? Why don't you introduce?
Well, hold on. Actually, before we do, I want to throw another jab out there, because here's the thing: you said the right thing, which is choice.
Right.
And paper gives you a large amount of choice.
Yeah.
We'll go into that. But here's one of the biggest bullshit lines that I've heard as a real estate investor. I love flipping houses. Even if I was financially free, I would be flipping houses. Which I'm normally like, shut the fuck up. No, you wouldn't. Shut the fuck up. Okay, so if you have $1 million a year or a month, whatever, coming in passively, would you still be flipping a house in Maryville?
No.
Probably.
No. It wouldn't even have to be $1 million a year. I mean, if it was just,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Most people can live very comfortably off of a couple $100,000 a year. Passive income.
and most people could.
Right.
And I've said it many times. I would rather make $1 million a year passively than make $100 million a year working 100 hours a week.
Right.
Like, that's not appealing to me. So guys, you guys have heard me talk about my mentor, Ed the Cuban guy. You guys have heard me talk about how he, what he does, my experience out in Mexico with him, some of the lessons that I've learned from it. And the biggest, big thing about that is that he's also a lazy investor. And as I was talking to him, and I'm like, I got into multifamily and I'm doing it to kind of create cash flow, but there's still this process that has to happen from buying an apartment complex to creating the cash flow to stabilizing it and everything else. And he was like, yeah, man, but I do notes. And I don't have to worry about tenants. I don't have to worry about toilets. He's like, if you buy a house and you get a loan from Bank of America and your toilet leaks, you don't go back to Bank of America and say, hey, my toilet's leaking. They're going to be like, this number's disconnected. So he really started putting it into my head. Now, I met you at an event here last month. And it was an event here thrown by a group called the Kingdom Connect Real Estate. Are you going out to Dallas?
Dallas next
February, yeah. So I'll be out in Dallas myself too. So perfect. Nice. Well, I'll see you over there. Yeah. And if you guys are in the Dallas area, I would highly suggest you check it out. I'll go ahead and put the link here a little bit later, and you guys can go ahead and check that out yourselves.
Definitely.
But one of the things that you came in is we were, they had a few keynote speakers. They had a few different breakout groups, but they also had these speakers that came in where everybody was kind of there. And Troy was one of these speakers, and he was speaking about notes. And one of the things that the founders of the Kingdom Real Estate Group, which is, Jordan, Ed, and Tyler, they're very, very much into freedom.
Right.
They're very, very much into, hey, it's not about working your ass off and grinding and hustling all the time. It's about creating real streams of passive income. Now, the majority of the stuff they do is real estate. Some of the stuff they do is like owning businesses. But we also come into a different section of real estate, which is notes.
Right.
And I've always said, to me, the natural progression, at least as a real estate investor with somebody that came in who started with no money, family had no money, absolutely no credit, no way to pull any money or borrow any money from anywhere, would be to start as a wholesaler, learn to trade that way, learn to make other people money, then eventually move into a fix and flipper where you have to learn how to raise money, and you have to learn how to be responsible for other people's money. Eventually, once you get a little bit past that, then you can start buying and holding, whether it be with a single investor or pulling money together as we do for multifamily. And then eventually, as you move up, my thought process is apartment complex, mobile home parks, because then we just own the lot. We don't own the actual units themselves. And then eventually moving into paper, which is what you do. So they asked you to speak. You were, people really loved your message. I particularly loved your message. I was really, really excited to hear you speak. So for all of our audience who doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell them a little bit about who you are, how long you've been in the industry, and kind of part of your experience.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Troy Fullwood with Pinnacle Investments here based out of Phoenix, Arizona. 22-year veteran in the note investing space. Established the first distressed asset fund on Wall Street for non-performing loans back in 2006, 2007. Done over 15,000 note transactions in 22 years. So we've done a few things
For
under our
1,000
belt.
a year, not bad.
Yeah, so not too shabby. I think the call came in when we were setting up, and there's another deal that we're doing right now. So we'll probably close on that next week because today's Friday. Wrote a book called The Power of Paper. This had been a 10-year journey. People kept asking me to write a book, and so I sat down and did one. So if you want to grab a copy of Power of Paper, you can get it on Amazon. You go to Amazon and do Power of Paper, Troy Fullwood, or you can go to our website. If you order from the website, it's troyfullwood.com/book.
Yes.
If you order from the website, all you gotta do is pay for postage and shipping, and I'll autograph it for you, and we'll send it out to you. The cool thing about this is it's not just a book. It's got investing tools to learn the note business. Matter of fact, I created 50 videos all about the note space because we're going to be here for a little bit of time today, but we're not going to be here all day type thing. Not that I don't want to hang out with you guys all day, but there's a whole bunch of investing tools that gives you calculators and all kinds of scenarios and case studies and things like that, contracts, all the things that you help you to get started in the business. So Power Paper, Troy Fullwood. You go to Amazon,
so
do that.
Why don't you? So you mentioned something that you used to work over in Wall Street, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what did you do? What exactly were you doing in Wall Street?
So back in 2006, one of the first non-performing loan portfolios I did was back in 2005, 2006. After we wholesaled the deal, it was a $6.8 million deal. We wholesaled it for $2.8 million. To a friend of mine, and picked up about right at six figures on the deal, and I split it with another friend of mine who actually became a partner in a distressed asset fund that we built and modeled out for Wall Street. So after we sold that first portfolio, we started putting our heads together. He used to work with Goldman Sachs, and they asked me to come in and design the model of what it would look like to buy and sell non-performing loans, and then to create an exit strategy. So we took a approach that's probably a lot different than most people back then, and that was about home preservation. So we were about buying the non-performing loans and then getting them back to performing. We weren't going after the house and trying to foreclose and all that. That's a very expensive model, and it's not a velocity model, so you can't.
So you were doing loan modifications then, right?
We kind of
buy the non-performing notes, or how were you doing that?
Yeah, we were buying non-performing first lien residential notes, and we were meeting with the homeowner via the phone, and then creating new terms and modifying the loan.
Okay. Was this pre or post bust?
Pre-bust.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had capital raised and everything, and we're sitting there literally at the door waiting for, it was kind of like Black Friday for note investors. And so we were waiting for the door to open, and we launched that fund in May of 07, May of 07. And so when the market started downturning and the banks started liquidating stuff, we were buying stuff at anywhere from 7 to 20 cents on the dollar.
All right, guys. So let me break this down for you guys that don't understand. The thing about it is that I've been in the industry for like 12 years. Mm-hmm. Chris has probably been in the industry right about the same time frame, and you've obviously been in the industry even longer. So a lot of times we talk about this shit and we just forget that a lot of people may not know what the fuck we're talking about.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So basically what he was doing was he created a fund. Mm-hmm. A fund is when you raise money from different investors and you say, hey, we're going to take this money and we're going to go ahead and use it for this. Mm-hmm. A fund is very similar to what Chris and ourselves are doing with our company, Recession Proof Investments, when we're raising money and we say, hey, guys, we're going to take this lump of money and we're going to buy cash flowing apartment complexes, and then we're offering these type of returns. Mm-hmm. They did the exact same thing, but instead of doing apartment complexes, they decided to buy notes. Right. Now, what a note means is if you guys go and you buy a house, and let's just use Bank of America for an example. You go, you talk to your local banker right there, you talk to the loan office or your loan officer there in Bank of America. They go through and they approve you for a loan. they've now created a note on that property.
Right.
That basically that note states we're letting you borrow X amount of money. You're paying us X amount of interest. Here's the terms of the loan. Here's how long you're going to be paying. Here's how much you're going to be paying. X, Y, Z. Now, in 2008, when a lot of the houses started foreclosing, and it actually started before 2008, but right in that time frame, right? When the houses started foreclosing, people couldn't start making their payments. A lot of this had to do with people getting into loans that they had no fucking idea what they were doing. A lot of those loans were ARM loans, which are adjustable rate mortgages. And basically what happened is that they bought it payments of like, let's say $2,000 a month. And then those motherfuckers shot up to $3,000, $4,000 a month because the interest was adjusting to what it was currently at. It was past that introductory state. A lot of people couldn't pay that. So now Bank of America was stuck with all these properties that they didn't really want, because Bank of America is not in the real estate business. They're in the lending business.
Yeah. Right. I mean, every bank out there, none of them are in the real estate business at all. The real estate is just the collateral for the loan that they're producing to purchase the collateral. They love the fact that investors and homeowners are out there buying stuff all day long because that puts their money to work. But they have no interest in dealing with tenants and toilets.
Not at all.
At any level. And so if that house goes into default, which means the borrower stops paying on it, whether it's a rental property or a primary residence, now they've got a problem on their hands. And that problem starts bleeding capital very, very quickly. And they have to go in and foreclose on it. They have to put it in their REO department. They have to list it, all of those things that are part of.
Well, and you guys got to understand that what the bank does is that they take the money that we deposit in there, and then they turn around and lend it, whether it be a mortgage, whether it be a car loan, whether it be a personal loan, whatever the situation is. However, there's a possibility that that mortgage is not going to get paid. So in this case, we're talking about houses. Those become notes. Those become non-performing notes. Those are notes that exist, so that the paperwork and everything currently exists. However, those notes are not being serviced. They're not being paid. The people are either behind on their payment or haven't made payment in a while, or whatever the case might be. But they're defaulting on their loan. Now, the bank, because they're not in the real estate industry, they want to get rid of that as fast as possible. They want to get liquid. They want to get money back so they can turn around and lend it. They're not in the industry of going in there and rehabbing this, boarding them up, finding the renters, doing all this stuff. Like, they just have no interest in doing any of that. So Troy, when he was in Wall Street, you started a fund that was going to go buy these non-performing notes. Right,
exactly. So we started a fund, and we started with institutional money. So we went straight to Wall Street to get the money to prove the model with Wall Street. So
tell them what institutional money is.
So institutional money is going directly to what they call fund of funds type funds. So there's private equity funds, and then there's hedge funds, and they will oftentimes go out, they'll gather money together, and they're looking for opportunities in the marketplace. And so we went to one of those types, what they call a fund of funds, and presented our business model. And actually, they had asked us to create it, so it really wasn't a big deal to present it to them. So we presented it to them. They said, okay, here's $30 million, and now go prove it. So part of it is you write out your plan, and then part of it is you raise the money, and then the next part is now prove that that plan actually works.
Yeah.
And you said that in the intro, you were talking about how you modeled it after the stock market. So did you want your portfolio to be able to perform similar to like a mutual fund or something like that, where there's aggressive, not so aggressive, that types of thing? Or
we did. We put it together as a velocity model. So we weren't looking for crazy returns, but the truth is we had crazy returns because of just the fact that we were buying stuff at anywhere from 7 to 20 cents on the dollar. Well, when you get that back to performing, now all of a sudden your IRRs, your internal rate of returns, are in the 80+% column. So it's not something that we can do anymore because it's not there. But also our cost of capital was much more expensive because we were the first guys out of the gate.
Yes.
So we had a higher risk portfolio, but we were able to bring on capital. I mean, our cost of capital was 15-16%.
All right, guys. So let me break this down for you one more time.
Sorry, guys.
So it's all good. It's all good. So basically, he started a fund, as we talked about. His fund was to go buy non-performing notes from different banks and different institutions that did that. And, you know, as you guys know, if you've ever taken a loan out on anything, these things get sold left and right.
Yeah.
Even when they're performing, they get sold left and right. But especially when they're not performing, they get sold. And a company like his was able to do it. Now, his goal was to go in there. He's able to buy them basically rock bottom because they're not performing. At this point, the bank just wants to get rid of them. They're just like, whatever, give me as much money as you can back.
Here's the big reason why they get rid of them, because they can't make money up. If you think back then, you know, they had $100,000 mortgage on a house, but now all of a sudden the house is only worth $80,000. And so what do they do with that? They have to put reserves at 2 times. So that loan's $100,000. So the bank has to set aside $200,000 just for that one homeowner. Now multiply that out over the entire country. That's a big number.
That's huge. So
That's
they were
amazing,
they were willing to negotiate down. Now, what happened is that he was able to get them at a lower rate, but he needed to make them performing, which means that he now needed to go do what's known as a loan modification. And if you guys remember 2008, 2009, loan modifications were the thing. People were out there, hey, well, we can get our loan modified. I can stay in my house. I can stay in my house. I can stay in my house. That's how it worked. He was able to do it. Now, because he got it at such a cheap rate, because he bought such big amounts of it, he was able to get the return on investment, even though he was paying a higher amount of money. And that's one thing that we talk about all the time here at the AZ Flip guys, is that it is better to pay more upfront just to prove your point. This is something that I did with my first apartment complex. I literally gave away 50% of the apartment complex. I got a seller financing opportunity. I reached out to a friend of mine. I said, hey, I need X amount of money to close on this thing. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This is my very first apartment complex. I have people surrounded with me that can help me, but personally, I've never done this myself. So I'm willing to give you 50% of everything if you just let me borrow this money.
Sure.
I was willing to do that because it got me into that scenario. It got me into the arena. And it was kind of like the price to pay to play, right?
Sure.
We got Ryan Harper in the house. We got Celie Levine in the house. We got our girl Angelique. Hey, Angie, thank you for joining us. We got Dave Plata joining us here. We got Victor Martin. Hey, what's up, brother? Hey, dude, next time you see me in fucking LA, don't wait till the fucking last day to hit me up and say, hey, can we meet up? Because, like, dude, you have to let me know ahead of time. We got Ed Chavez with the comments who said, hey, Ed from Platinum Plus Painting. Ed is a local. He constantly supports our show. If you guys are in the Phoenix area and you need a painter, make sure you hit up Ed. I know last time we spoke with him, he was already booked out a month in advance. Nonetheless, if you guys need some painters, make sure you hit up Ed. We got Marsha Barton here who says, love the whiteboard. Awesome. And we do have our first question here from Marsha, who says, does the book show you how to establish a REIT so a small group of peeps can do this together?
No.
He's not a lawyer.
And Marsha, let me help you out here. First of all, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, seriously, you have no fucking idea. I know you personally. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about when it comes to the REIT. I know you heard it somewhere, but you don't have to go. A REIT is a completely different thing. For you guys that don't know, it's kind of like a hedge fund that puts together to buy cash flowing assets. A lot of times you get REITs that turn around, and that's where the institutional money comes in to buy these big apartment complexes, whether it be, you know, in New York or LA, Miami, these bigger markets where you're talking about $50, $100 million purchase price. Shit, I just met a guy at a networking event over in California. And I was talking to him. I'm like, yeah, you know, my problem is right now is that I have more deals and I have capital for it. And he's like, how much capital do you need? I'm like, I don't know, man. A few $1 million to get the deals that we have. He's like, oh man, that sounds good, but the group that I work with, they won't look at a deal unless it's $50 million. Like, we won't even look that way. That's kind of the realm that you're walking into when you're talking about REITs. So for you to go in there, you don't even need to go and create a REIT. What would you reply to somebody looking to start a REIT?
so here's my reply on that, no matter who it is. So if you walked up to me today and you said, Troy, I got $10 million to invest in notes, the first question I'd ask you is, have you ever bought a note? And 99 times out of 100, people are going to say no, because they've never done it. They've seen it on, you know, some blog post or some podcast or some YouTube channel or something like that. And they like the idea. It makes sense. And it really looks to potentially accomplish the goal that they're looking for, but they've never actually done it. So I tell them, first and foremost, just wholesale some deals. Start at the basic level and wholesale some deals. Find some deals, build out your brand, then start building the pipeline and wholesale some deals. And then at that point, you can keep the ones that you want to keep, and you can get rid of the ones you don't want to get rid of.
Yeah.
And then you can start going out and raising capital. Because first off, nobody's going to invest. And I think you said this a moment ago with your apartment complex, but you had a relationship with that investor, but you were just transparent about your situation. Nobody's going to invest with anybody that doesn't have some type of transactional history.
Yeah.
In that space, whatever it is. Like if my best friend came up to me and said, "Hey, I've got this great idea for a restaurant." I'm like, "How many restaurants have you owned or worked in?" Well, none. I'm like, I would not invest money with that person.
Not at all.
Not because they're not a great friend and not because I don't care for them, but it's like it's too far fetched.
And that's where I talked about the process of moving into something new. You start at wholesaling to learn the business. So if I had notes and I know that you're a note buyer, I can come to you and say, "Hey, I got these notes.
Right.
I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Everything looks like a good deal to me because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about."
Right.
I'll bring it. I might be like, "Hey, I got this note. It's 50% off." And you're like, "That's shit. Like I'm buying that stuff at whatever, 10 cents on the dollar or whatever you were getting it back at that time, right?"
Sure.
I don't know any different.
Right.
So I'm coming up to the investor and saying, "Hey, here's what I got available."
Right.
Once I see the process and I see how it works, then I can start saying, "Okay, well, you know what, this one looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to keep it myself instead of selling it to Troy."
Well, absolutely, and you should. I mean, I'm a true supporter of residual income, passive income. I'm absolutely a huge believer in that. And I think everybody's got to have that as part of their model, whether it's day one or day 1,000. You've got to start putting that in your model. And if you're out there doing those, like we buy a lot of notes that people will broker to us. So people will go out and find deals. They'll bring them to us. We'll buy them. We'll pay them a nice, handsome fee. Matter of fact, the phone call that came in, that was a broker. He's making $10,000 on a note deal. $65,000 note deal. He's making $10,000 on. So he's making a nice chunk of change, and which is good for him. He put in the work.
What's the math on that, Chris?
That's a pretty nice return. You know?
Marcia says here, funds are PIMA. What does that mean, Marcia? Let us know, because I'm not really sure exactly what you're talking about.
Let me give you a little lowdown. So Marcia is a part of a group. I don't know if she actually bought in the notes, but there's a local group of investors, and they recently put together some money, and they took down a note. So one of the things that they had an issue with, and what a lot of people are going to be asking us, is where do we find notes? Like, it's easy I know how to find a house. There's a house right there. How do I find the person who owns the note behind it? And, why don't you get into that aspect of it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So in the Power of Paper book, there's several different ways you can find notes. But there's a couple of – so there's two areas that you can go to that are immediate. Number one is every note deal out there is part of public record. So it's part of, like, here we are in Maricopa County. So you can go to the Maricopa County Recorder's Office and you can get an entire list of seller financed real estate or properties here in the Maricopa County area. And that's going to be everything from land to fourplexes to apartment complex that you bought, to houses, to you name it. They'll probably just give you a whole bucket of stuff. And then you have to sort through it. But then you have to start the marketing part of reaching out to those people to see if they want to sell. Because all you have then is you just have people, like when you go and say research vacant homes, you find out who owns the home, but then the question is, do they want to sell the home? And that becomes that magical question. That's one way. Number two, if you want to test the model, go to Craigslist. It's what I call the evergreen marketing system. Go to Craigslist under real estate here in Phoenix, and under the search bar, type in seller financing or owner will carry or owner carry, different keywords, and you'll see a number of houses that are in the Phoenix marketplace that are for sale with seller financing. So people are creating notes all around us every single day. The question is, do they want to sell them? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, those people are out there creating them. Those are eventually going to be part of the the county recorder's office, and then you'll see them then. But if you can get in on the front side, and here's what I like doing, I like getting in on the front side. So if I see that they're making any kind of a mistake or something that needs to be tweaked, I can get them to tweak it before it gets signed. Because once it's signed, it's pretty much written in stone. I mean, no borrower is going to come back to the table and re-sign docs unless it benefits them, whether it's a rate change or something like that. But that's two key things that you can do at the end of the day.
And guys, what he said is he just dropped a lot of great information, which you can find in his book, The Power of Paper. Yeah. And I would highly suggest you go to his website, try Troy Fullwood, and you get it for free just by paying the shipping.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you get it. You basically get this shit for free. Now, even if you buy this and you spend $20 on Amazon or whatever the hell you sell it for on Amazon, like it's going to be totally worth it just by the information that he gave right there. Now, Marsha here, you know that I love you, and you know that I know you personally. This is why I can talk to you the way that I fucking talk to you. First of all, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, or how it's not. You're not talking about. You don't know what you're doing. And you don't need to be getting into the REIT section of it. However, because you are portioned with the group there and stuff, you do have to work on the fundamentals. And this is one of the things that most people do in real estate in general is they like to run before they know how to fucking crawl. And everybody, like you should be focusing, if you're looking to get into notes, do what Troy said. Focus on building your reputation. You need to focus one step at a time. This is a constant struggle that I have with a lot of my mentoring students, where they're like, I want to go and I want to raise money. And I'm like, motherfucker, you haven't even wholesaled the deal yet. What are you talking about owning an apartment complex? Yes, you can probably do it. It's going to take a lot of fucking work, or you can do step by step by step by step. And it's a long drawn out process. And one of the things that Troy just shared with us is he shared a section on how to build your brand. If you think you found notes, if you think you found something that works, you can actually go on Craigslist, as you said, and just try it out and see what people will see, what type of response you're getting.
At any time in the Phoenix marketplace, if you do the various keyword searches, you'll total up around let me conservatively estimate 1,000 deals. But I've seen it as high as 2,000.
And there's way less competition. I mean, for every 10 investors, how many do you think invest in notes? Or shoot, out of it 100, how many invest?
Well, it's a $1.7 trillion industry. 1.7 trillion. You know how big REOs are nationwide? 3 billion. Yeah, so that's the difference. REOs are about 3 billion. I'm not beating up on the industry, but look at all the success that's been created nationwide by the folks that have gone out and bought REOs, fixed them up, rented them or rehabbed them, whatever they did, and look at how much money's been made off of that.
Yeah.
Now compare that industry to the seller finance industry, which is about $1.7 trillion.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of this opportunity comes in here. We do have our buddy Mark Warlick in the house. Hey, Mark, dude, love you, brother. You know I fucking love you. We got to get together. We got to do our hike. Just big shout out to Mark. We got Felix Corral over here. Mark is actually a note buyer, so he recently got into notes. He came across some notes, and I know that his section of it was more on the non-performing notes. So Mark is asking here, what about finding non-performing notes? How do you go about actually finding non-performing notes?
Well, I think originally you were saying you're going right to the source, right? So you're not necessarily looking for a note. You're looking for people who are in the industry, and then they're going to have performing and non-performing, right?
Right. So the non-performing side of the business, it depends on what level you want to play at. So the big guys are playing. So the feds are constantly liquidating stuff every single quarter. And last year, I think they liquidated $28 billion worth of non-performing notes in the marketplace. The majority of those were bought up by Condor Capital, Lone Star, and Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is buying them up because of a judgment that they got against them, back in the day. So they're fulfilling that model, and they're paying a premium for it. So those are your big players. Those big players will typically comb through that stuff. They'll carve out what they want, and then they're going to sell off the lower tier stuff that's typically below $150,000 in value. They're going to spend that off or send that off to other, say, buyers in what they call second or resellers in the marketplace, which are people like myself and other guys. And you can buy stuff from Morgan Stanley, but a great place to really start is you get into what I would call community banks and community organizations. Now, let me tell you the secret to dealing with banks. The number one secret to dealing with banks is, first off, there's 7,800 different banks in the U.S. 7,800. So when I say different, meaning that Bank of America is one bank.
Yeah.
Not like 7,800 locations, but 7,800 different banks. we all know the top tier banks, the Wells, the
Yeah.
BofA's, the Chases, and all those guys. But then you start getting into the lower tier banks, which are typically banks that have anywhere from one location up to maybe 15, 20 locations.
Okay.
And so those banks are much easier to work with than the bigger banks when it comes to buying non-performing notes. Now, we have a software that we have, and I think it's actually listed in the back of our book, called Bank Direct Connect, and we developed a software that tracks all of the REOs. You might be interested in this.
Hell
You might be
yeah.
interested in this too.
Mhm.
All the REOs, both residential and commercial, and all the notes, both residential and commercial, performing and non-performing, or actually non-performing, and even agricultural land. So people that are out there want to develop small subdivisions and stuff like that. It's called bankdirectconnect.com.
So once again, let me.
But that software, like we update that every quarter, and so going back to what I said, 7,800 banks. There's only about 2,200 banks, 22 to 2,300 banks that actually have product. So if you've heard on some podcast or some blog saying just call banks directly, and you called 10 banks, but you called 10 that are outside of the 2,800.
Mhm.
Oh, you're just getting punched in the face.
Which is going to be 2/3 of them.
Oh, yeah, 2/3.
7,500, right?
Yeah, 7,800, yeah. So
Yeah.
2/3 of them don't have any product anymore. So they're running a very lean machine at this point. And that being said, so if you're calling those people, you're going to keep running into dead ends, and you're going to get discouraged. You're going to get tired. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get beat up. And I don't.
So
want
let
that to happen to
me
anybody.
once again break down what Troy is saying over here. So basically, to Mark, to answer your questions, how do I find non-performing notes? The best way that Troy is talking about is going directly to these banks. Now, obviously, working with the smaller banks is easier than working with the bigger banks.
Mhm.
However, finding the banks that are actually willing to play ball, that actually are willing to sell the non-performing notes, because not all of them are. According to what Troy just said, about there's 7,800 banks in the U.S., but only about 2,000 of them actually
Have product.
yeah, exactly, have product to sell. So what Troy is saying is that is this your software that you're?
Yeah, it's our
Okay.
software that we built.
Perfect. So Troy has a software that you can purchase,
Yeah.
or pay monthly, or how does that work?
It's just a one-time fee. I think
Okay.
it's like $8.97, but it's a one-time fee, and we update it every quarter.
Cool.
So people can go in there, and it lists banks in Arizona. It also, by the way, lists credit unions
Mhm.
as well.
And we have Darren Ross, the investor, who's
Mr.
saying
Ross.
awesome software. So it sounds like he's used it before.
Mhm.
So Mark, you can go directly to these banks. You
Mhm.
can call them. You can do that. You can get a VA to do that, but it's going to be a long process. Now, Mark is a longtime veteran of the business.
Mhm.
He is, he's very consistent, so he may have the tenacity to actually follow through with all of those. However, to save your time and effort, you can't just pay this guy one time for his software, and the software will tell you not only what banks are doing this, but what they have to offer, and you guys update that every quarter.
We update it every quarter. It's tied
Boom.
directly into the FDIC and their quarterly reportings and earnings reports from the banks. So we have to wait for the bank to report. So let's say right now we're in the first
Mhm.
quarter. So the banks have until the end of January to send in all their quarterly reports for the last quarter of last year. A lot of them are going to ask for an extension, which they can. They get an extra 30-day extension. So basically, we'll get 90% of them by the end of January. We'll get the other 10% by the end of February.
Okay, so seriously, Mark, was this information alone, this fucking 10 minutes, not worth fucking clicking in there? I know that it is, because he's saying, how do I get the software? So where do they go to get your software?
I think it's in the back of the book.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, while he's looking that up, if
Yeah.
you guys are interested in learning about notes, get yourself the fucking book. TroyFullwood.com. You go there, you can get the book for free, literally for free, just to pay for the shipping and handling. Yeah, find me that website. We'll put it on the comments here for the actual website. If you guys are listening to us on a podcast, we'll have that on the description. We'll have his website on the description, and any other way that you can get a hold of him. But guys, this is what the AZ Flip guys are all about. Adding value, adding massive value for anybody that is interested in doing notes. I know, as I said, as I was talking and I was talking with my mentor, he's been able to build his rental portfolio to somewhere in the 500s, mainly from notes, mainly from buying, wholesaling, cherry picking the shit that he wants and moving into these. Now he normally buys performing notes, or he's got a certain thing, so he'll do non-performing notes. They have to meet certain criteria, obviously, and then he'll do the loan modification with them.
Perfect.
Or he'll do performing loans if they fall under certain criteria.
Nice.
And so what are you currently doing right now on your note section? And now I know you said initially you were working with in Wall Street. You created a fund. Do you still have that fund, or what are you currently doing with notes at this moment?
So we sold off that fund a couple of years later. It was a funny story, but I'll make it quick. So it was like crazy. Like the returns were like ridiculous. And once we proved out the model, then Wall Street wanted everything. So they're like, okay, we're going to buy you guys out.
Stupid money.
And I was like,
stupid money alert.
Like, okay. And so they bought us out, myself and my partner, and we quietly walked away and went to go do our own thing. Since then, we're setting up another fund, which we're going back out in the space and doing NPLs again. We're constantly buying NPLs. I'm looking at a small 6 commercial property deal out of New York, $3.8 million deal that I can pick up for $2.1 million right now, all first liens on commercial buildings. So we're still buying the NPLs. We're spending a lot of time in the performing note space as well, because it's very park and play.
So you're moving up from notes, but it's still note the arena, but you're moving in from single family to commercial.
Yeah,
Is that what I understand?
well, we're not really moving in it. It's just something that like bounced on our desk like 2 days ago. I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Nice,
because the numbers just made sense. Sometimes the commercial deals don't make sense.
When you buy them. I got a question for you. What a lot of people don't want to invest in notes where there's homeowners living there. They only want to invest in buy investor loans. Yeah, what's the difference, and why do they do that?
Okay, so there's two things you can do. So if you buy a note where a person's still living in the house, then you can go and you can modify the loan.
Yes.
And that's very park and play money. So it's very
and a lot of that's going to be performing, right? We're talking a lot about non-performing, but there is a pretty large performing market out there, right?
Absolutely. Well, so when you compare like the performing note market, it's about 1.6, 1.7 trillion.
Hold on. Yeah. Guys, let me just break it down before you guys go into it. They're talking about performing notes versus non-performing notes.
Right.
Basically, when you go to the bank, they create a note for a loan. If you are like Chris, who's very good paying his bills on top of paying his bills, and he's going to be awesome, that is known as a performing note.
Right.
This is a note that has currently been paid now. Bank of America, as I mentioned to you, normally the places that start off your loan are normally not the ones that keep your loan.
Right.
They'll originate the loan, they'll do it, and then they'll sell it, whether it be to somebody like you who's buying performing notes or whatever. Now, if you have Bank of America gave Chris a loan and Bank of America gave me a loan, and I'm just, I'm having financial trouble, I lost my job, I can't pay my shit, things aren't working out. So Chris has paid his bills on time. He continues to pay his bills. He's now going on year number 4 or 5, whatever. He has a seasoned performing note. Right. That means that it's a performing note and he's been there for a while. I have a non-performing note. Now you are in the space where you can buy one or the other, correct?
We do both.
Okay. So
it's kind of like playing baseball. When you play baseball, if you're a first baseman, you also have to be a good hitter. So we're just playing offense and defense all the time. Okay. So if we're buying, to Chris's comment about the difference between buying non-performing notes with somebody in it and non-performing notes with somebody not the property being vacant, there's 2 categories there. So you've got your owner-occupied non-performing note, and then you have what they call a zombie foreclosure in the industry. And when somebody's living in the house, if your goal is to put your money to work, modify the loan, put that into your portfolio, and create a long-term return, it's what I call boring money. It's what I call watching green paint dry.
Success is boring,
and that's
guys.
okay. That's okay. I'm willing to. We watch green paint dry for 10 days on a cruise.
Yeah,
that was okay. That was okay. And then there's the other side of it where you get these houses that are vacant, and you can buy the non-performing note, and that you're just immediately going to foreclosure, and you're either selling it at the courthouse steps, which, by the way, I have a whole story
Yeah.
behind that.
Oh, we can get into that.
Or you have the ability to keep it at the courthouse steps and fix it.
Now, you said something which I've never heard before, and I'm always curious when I hear terms that I've never heard before.
Okay.
You said a zombie foreclosure?
Zombie foreclosure.
What the fuck is that?
So zombie foreclosure is when somebody, for whatever the reason, they vacated the house way before the foreclosure sale took place. So maybe they were in the property, whoever had the lien on it filed a notice of default, trying to maybe, I'd say, pressure them into a modification, pressure them into getting back on track. And they said, you know what, forget it. You know, I don't want this house anymore. I don't want to be in this neighborhood anymore. Let's pack our stuff. And they go. And they literally like pack their stuff.
So they leave before they're foreclosed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tons of them.
So that's what's known as a zombie foreclosure.
Zombie foreclosure,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So fake it.
Okay, perfect. So when you buy it, you have two different types of, which would be a zombie foreclosure. Oh, let me step back here. So Troy is buying non-performing notes. So this is what we're talking about at this point.
Right.
These are people who have no longer paid their bills. Now you have two people. Let's go back to Chris and myself as an example. Chris buys his house, and then he comes into financial trouble, but he's married, he's got kids. He's like, I can't go anywhere. I'm going to try to live here as long as I fucking possibly can.
Some people do.
Some people do it, and I'm not talking shit about it. I'm just saying that's the scenario, right? So he's currently there. When Troy buys the note, Chris and his family is still living in the property at that point.
Right.
That's your kind of your normal scenario that you have, right? All the time. Now, you also have the opposite of that, which is a zombie foreclosure, which is somebody like me. So I'm not married. They come in and I'm starting behind on payments, and I'm like, man, fuck this shit. I'm gonna live in Mexico. Like I'm gonna go live in a different town. Like I don't give a shit about this. Fuck my credit. This don't matter. Chris is an outstanding citizen. I'm like, fuck this. Let's go. When he buys it from the bank, I no longer live there, so he doesn't even have to go through the foreclosure process. Now, you still have to go do like a quick claim deed or something at that point to legally transfer it over?
Well, the auctioneer handles all that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get a deed.
And is that something along the lines where, hey, I bought the note, Brian is no longer living here, let's go serve him. Oh, he's nowhere to be found. I automatically win the case.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you post your notice of default. You have to go through all the proper legal steps that apply to that county, and hiring either a trustee to do it or hiring a real estate foreclosure attorney to do it is usually what I found to be the best way. It kind of crosses all your T's and dots all your I's, and let them do it. And then in the end, they're going to hand you a deed to that property, free and clear property at that point, and then you can go in and work your magic.
And guys, these are something that you could do yourself. You could actually go to the courthouse. You could file all the paperwork. You could do it, but people are like, we ain't fucking doing that shit. Fuck no. Just pay somebody to do that shit.
Yeah.
Just pay. It's so much more free. And as a lazy investor, that's one of the great things about notes, is that it allows you to be very hands-off for the most part. And even buying a property where somebody's living there or not living there, you don't handle it. You just send that out to the attorneys. You let them deal with it. You let them kind of go. Now, you do also have the option of turning around and say, hey, you know what, Mr. Homeowner, I see that you're only a little bit behind, whatever. We can let's try to see how we can work it out.
That'd be step one.
Yes. Now, so we got Melissa Lutman here in the house. We got Ray Rocha, who says, wow, this is some good shit. He also says that he's going to be getting the book today. Awesome. Very good. We got our boy Mark Warlick with another question, but before that, he said that he just got the book. So perfect.
Thanks,
we
Mark.
need to get the website for your site. We got Kelly Rojas in the house. We got David Plata, who's saying that's nuts, and that is fucking insane, guys. When I first heard about notes, Chris used to talk to him about notes, and I'm like, I don't want to hear this shit, man. I got to fucking hear. I'm like,
I'm a spreadsheet guy, man.
Yeah. Well, and he is. He's a numbers guy. I'm a relationships guy, and I'm a. How can I make my life simpler, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes he's talking about a deal, and he's like, oh, let's do this, and let's create a note, and you hear that. And I was like, dude, I have no fucking interest in hearing about this shit.
Hey, Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
As I progressed, though, I was like, okay, wow, this is interesting. Wow, this is fucking nuts. This is crazy. This is amazing. Mm-hmm. And as a passive income cash flow investor and somebody who is lazy myself, when I found out the depth part about notes, it's something that has highly, highly interested me. And it's something that this year I've already made an intent to get a little bit more into. We got, let me see, we got Kelly Rojas in the house. Hey, Kelly, thank you for joining us. We got Mark Warlick here who says, well, actually,
before you ask this question, you look like you're chomping at the bit to write something on the whiteboard.
Well, I can either write it or you can post it in there. That's the website.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, write it up on the board, and then we'll put it on there too.
So what I wanted to ask you, you were talking about foreclosures. Yeah. Some people don't want to do mortgage states. So you have two ways to foreclose. You have a deed of trust state and you have a mortgage state. Just two different security instruments.
Right.
What's the difference, and is there one that's better than the other?
No, neither one is better than the other.
All right. So it's just people fearing shit that they shouldn't be fearing. What a surprise, right?
And just like always, guys, the wolf in your head is worse than the wolf in real life.
Yeah, it's like people talk about, like, here's a big thing that comes up. By the way, that's the website, bankdirectconnect.com. And www thing. So people, one of the things that also comes up is, well, do I want to do judicial or non-judicial states? Mm-hmm. Well, the truth is, when you break them out, you separate the two, and then you look at the judicial states, which I think there's 18 of them in the country. Like 11 out of the 18 are 180 days or less, or less. So what's the issue?
Yeah.
I mean, really, Arizona's 180 days state.
Oh, so you're only saving a month or two.
Yeah, I mean, Texas is Texas and Georgia are the fastest. Texas is 45 days. Georgia's like 60 days or less. Mm-hmm. And that's from the time you file the notice of default type thing.
To the time that you can evict them.
To the time that, the sale can take place. And so, they get this idea in their head that, oh, we'll never do judicial state foreclosures because they take way too long. Now, that's oftentimes it's based on 3 key areas in the country. New York is about 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. So that's a judicial state. Yeah. Florida used to be about 2 years. Now it's down back in line to about 9 months. And Chicago or Illinois is about a 2-year foreclosure process. Ooh. So we don't buy a lot in New York, and we don't buy a lot in
obviously
in Chicago.
And guys, this is
that
why
just Chicago, or is that all of Illinois?
All of Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is why it's great to have a mentor when it comes to these things. This is why it's great to pay to get information. This is why it's great to come on shows just like this one. And if you are finding this information useful, as you can see, we're not selling anything. We're not pitching anything. We're just putting out stuff of value. Obviously, like you can get the book for free. And you can also check out his, bankdirectconnect.com. Yeah. Chris will be typing that in there. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are interested in the software that allows you to do that, that's not free. Nonetheless, it's just a great way for you guys to get value out of this. And just like always, if you guys find value out of this information, make sure that you are sharing this. So we got our girl Celie who says, are y'all going to the cruise in May? Financial friends. What? I have no idea about that cruise. So put it on the comments. Tell me what the hell's about. Share it. We got Mark Warlick who says, here in Phoenix, there are situations where people vacated properties and the lender stopped the foreclosure and forgave the loan. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes
then it's an REO.
Yeah.
I mean, if they forgave the loan, they can do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens. Sometimes, that's the great thing about real estate is that there isn't a certain way to do it. It's not set in stone.
Right.
And there's ways that we do it, but there's also, that's not the only way.
Right.
And that's the great thing about real estate is if you are handy-mandy and you want to go fucking paint houses, change toilets, put in fucking woodwork and shit.
Absolutely.
Then I'll do. When I used to heavily focus on flips, and I used to tell people what I did. Yeah. I got 2 reactions: one from men, one from women. Men would be like, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to flip houses. I could save money painting. My uncle's a plumber. Blah 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 blah." And the women were always on the, I would love to do that because I'm a great designer. I know how to choose colors. I know how to like design stuff.
And everybody thinks it's really easy.
Yeah, everybody does. Nonetheless, though, if that is what you want, there is a section for you in real estate.
Yeah.
If you choose to be more passive, there's a section for you in real estate. If you choose to be even more passive, there's a separate section for you in real estate. And even when dealing with notes, you know, I know my mentor, he was talking about how he wholesale deals. Some of the investors that were buying his wholesale notes were like, hey, man, you know, we're doing this. We're going through the whole foreclosure process. We're doing this, this, and that. There's so much money to be made. And my mentor's like, yeah, but that sounds like too much fucking work for me.
Yeah.
That's not the type of investor that I want to be.
Right.
Now, if you want to buy a non-performing note, go through the whole foreclosure process, come in there, do a loan modification or the foreclosure, come in, blah, 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 and do it. Yes, you could end up with amazing deals, but they take a lot of work. Where somebody like me would be like, I would rather not do that. I would rather just wholesale them, where I would just cherry pick the ones that are performing already. I'm not getting such a crazy yield on them, but they're already performing and we move them down the line. So
yeah,
we got, anyway, we got here Ryan Harper who says, what's up, guys? We got Propelio in the house.
Propelio.
Thank you for joining us. Hey, Ryan, I'm going to be in fucking Dallas
next month.
Next month.
No,
so
forget that,
mid-February.
man. We're going to be in Dallas.
Yeah.
I just attached myself.
You can fly out too, brother.
I'll be the video
we got
guy.
Troy over here. So a few things, bro. If you don't know Troy, get to know Troy, and then let's get him on Propelio. He runs another online show. They have an online system where they sell leads for people that are looking like pre-foreclosures and that type of shit.
Nice.
But anyway, I'm sure they would love to get you on the show to talk about
great.
notes. I would love to get on your show, rock out that motherfucker one more time, and then we need to hang out. You know what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably just going to stay. I'm flying out to Miami to speak at this event the first week of February. Then I'm going to just fly straight to Dallas, hang out there for a week. I may just drive up to fucking Arkansas and check out an apartment complex. This is already there. And then I may, depending on the time, I just stay out there for another event at the end of February. So anyway, Ryan says here, question for Kris. How are you able to share so many groups without being put in Facebook jail?
I've been put in Facebook jail. But number two, I hired a VA, and so he posted them all out there today. So
there you
outsource,
go.
baby. Outsource.
Leverage?
Nice.
Shut the fuck up. You can leverage. You don't have to do this shit yourself. Oh, man. Fuck, nobody ever taught me about that. I wish there was a show every week where like two regular guys just talked about like leveraging and like networking and like meeting people and having shit just fall in your lap. Fuck, I wonder where it is.
Hopefully you didn't just jinx me though. On that.
We got Russ Keith here who says, what's up, guys? Hey, Russ, thank you for joining us. We got Roy Rothschild who says, just got the book. Hey, man, awesome.
Thanks,
There
Roy.
we go. And guys, like I said, I am not pitching anything. Troy's not giving me a kickback for anything or whatever. You know, it's just me finding value. When I heard him speak, I was like, this guy's got a wealth of knowledge, and I would love to have him on the show so you can be answering questions for people just like you. And once again, if you are listening to us on Podcast Land, if you are listening to us on a replay here, watching us on AZ Flip Guys, if you are watching us on YouTube Land, make sure that you join us live, facebook.com/AZ Flip Guys. Every Friday at noon, we come in and we do our show live where you can ask questions.
Nice.
And if you happen to be watching us on a replay or hearing us on a podcast and you have a question, make sure you put it in the comments and we'll go back and we'll answer that sometime in the future.
Just like right now, we got, man, you're getting lots of love here.
Yeah.
So the Big Kahuna's tuning in. What's up, Corey?
Big Kahuna, what's up, brothers?
Corey loves Troy.
Yes.
And then we got a lot of people.
Sounds like a sitcom.
Yeah.
He wants to get on your show. So
Well, and actually, speaking of people that we have interviewed, we got Corey motherfucking Peterson
That's
in
right.
the house.
Yeah.
The Big
I love
Kahuna,
his stuff.
who
Love his
is
stuff.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
he's
guys,
awesome.
we've talked about it. We've had Corey on our show twice, and those have been our two most popular episodes that we've ever done.
Yeah.
With Corey, a lot of knowledge being dropped on there.
We got Darren Ross saying, I agree. Troy has helped me grow and expand my business to 7 figures in this past year. He is a real deal. Wow. I love it. That is awesome.
Yes. We got Marsha Burton who says, I'm with Corey on this one. Love this guy. Troy is a super nice guy. And guys, here's the thing is if you've been in the industry for long enough, if you network like we do, if you speak in public like we do, you will eventually build a reputation out there. And, you know, there's a saying out there, where there's smoke, there's fire. And if a lot of people say that you're a fucking, if one or two people say, oh, that guy Troy's a fucking asshole. Well, maybe they didn't have a good experience with you. Maybe they caught you on a bad day. Maybe they were a fucking asshole and they just, they didn't like the way you responded to them. Whatever. Nonetheless, though, if the large majority of people are saying, especially people that have an also following themselves and are also speaking and doing anything themselves, if they have a lot of good things to say, then it's usually what's up. So just like he said, we got our boy here, what was his name, Mr. Ross here, who said he's helped them out a lot tremendously. So if you guys are interested in doing notes, if you guys are interested in learning about notes, make sure that you do yourself a favor, get the book. And as I said, if you go to his website, troyfullwood.com, you can actually go ahead and get the book for free and just pay for shipping. Yeah.
So we're already up on our hour and we have so much more to talk about.
Oh, my Lord.
Guys, the one thing that we're not going to be able to talk about right now is probably the most important is your due diligence. So get the book. There's a whole section on due diligence in there.
Well, and actually what we'll do is we probably just do what we'll do with Kahuna. We'll bring it up again and we'll just talk about the due diligence. Because we did, like with the big Kahuna, the first time we talked about apartment complexes and we really wanted to get into OPM, which is other people's money, which is a huge part of it. But, so many people were asking about the apartment complex. We just did a second show where we mainly focused on OPM. So we might do that to the due diligence because we know, look, guys, a lot of times people hear the numbers that he's talking about and they're like, oh my God, that's a fucking amazing return. I'm going to go buy this note. Oh my God, yeah, some guy's wholesale selling me this note. This is great. I'm going to buy it. And they don't understand what they're getting into. My buddy here who was on he's still on our show, Mark, he buys notes and we send him some notes that we had from our mentor. And he's like, yeah, let me check them out. And he's like, oh man, they look like at a good price, but once I research the taxes, once I research this and that, those are not going to work for me at that price. That's something that a newbie would not do and would be like, oh, fuck it, that's a great deal. And come to find out that, oh, shit, there's all these back taxes. I got to evict somebody. Here's all these things. So we'll get into that for the next show.
I would like to hit one more subject on it, though, before we wrap up. Because
we can keep going for a little bit, man.
For sure. Real estate is so creative. It's it's whatever you want it to be. And so we've been talking about all this traditional. We talked about
Ryan Harper said real estate equals wild, wild west.
Oh, so true. So
whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. So we're talking about how a lot of people think it's real linear. This is exactly how it's done. And so we were talking about the traditional way of buying notes. The banks have them, they package them, we buy them. I want to talk a little bit about creating notes because I think that's what a lot of people out here that watch our show, that's what they can do. So a little quick little background, guys. My parents have done a few of them. And so the last one they did, just to summarize it real quick.
Motherfucker, you're trying to close the show by talking about creating notes?
Yeah.
That's a whole fucking 2-hour
Just about how there's two different ways.
I short this down.
Because, so my parents, they bought a lot for 30.
Awesome.
They sold it for 50 with 25,000 down.
Nice.
So they're in it for 5 and they had like a 10% interest. So they're they created this, right? They are now the bank. They created this note. So they have a $25,000 note and that's an asset that they are holding on to.
Nice.
But they could also sell that to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We buy land notes all the time.
Man.
We buy custom lot deals and all that. So
it's never ending.
So to answer Chris's question in like a minute or less.
Oh no, you're fine, bro.
We're really not out of time.
Facebook isn't going to cancel.
We're good.
All right. So
our first 2-hour show.
So there's 4 key ingredients to every note deal and I'm gonna tell it to you from this is how you stay.
Chris, you want to write that up on the board?
How you stay what I call best practices. And I always give people the advice from a standpoint that life is going to change. So I know you've seen your life change. I know Chris has seen his life change, and so have I. And my intention in buying notes is to buy all the ones that I can and put them in our portfolio and continue to grow. But if something happens to me or something happens to my wife, there may be a time where I'm going to need to sell those notes to bring in additional cash flow or to pay for something unexpectedly. And so I want to make sure that I'm creating good deals or buying good deals that I know have longevity to them. So with that being said, number one, you want to make sure your borrowers have at least a 600 credit score or better. You could ink that down to about a 575, but then you want to put them in some kind of credit repair program, even if you have to pay for it. it costs you, I don't know, $400, $500, $600, but that'll drastically increase the return in the event that you go to sell it. Number two is you want to make sure they have at least 10% down on the property, whatever the property is. I don't care if it's SFR, land, as Chris was mentioning, commercial. It's got to be at least 10% down. They got to have skin in the game. Then your terms, you want to keep them simple, 10, 20, or 30-year terms. How you pick that, I'll come back and cover that in just a second. The fourth thing is your interest rate or the face rate of the note needs to be between 7 to 9%. Okay, that keeps you in compliance with Dodd-Frank if you're doing seller financing on owner-occupied properties.
Now, guys, what he's talking about is creating notes. These
Creating
are
notes, right?
Best practices you to create a note.
Exactly, these are best practices.
What was you're missing number 3 over there?
Yeah, I was going to talk about this.
So number 3, what they say was number 3.
I didn't get it.
Amortization.
Amortization.
So amortization. So 10, 20, or 30-year terms. So the number one thing, and it's not so much anymore, but it used to be a big thing back in the day, and I still sometimes will see it. The number one problem people do, or the challenge that they create, is they sell houses. They put people in a house at 9% interest rate on a 10-year term because they think if they sell that note, they're going to get a premium dollar for it. But the problem with that is you put a borrower in the house who can't afford the payment. Mm-hmm. So it's 2007 all over again. And next thing you know, as an investor myself and the Wall Street guys and everything else, we've seen this. This isn't our first rodeo. Mm-hmm. So we've seen this thing over and over again. So we see that as a default waiting to happen, 6 months, 6 years down the road, somewhere down the road, which is not what we want. As a note buyer that's buying performing notes, we want to put our money to play. I mean, my wife's already figuring out where we're going.
Yeah, she's already spending. She's already spending your next vacation. Yeah, we talked about that before we started.
Before we got on here, I'm like, oh, my wife's sending me our next vacation stuff. So
and for all y'all motherfuckers that are married, you already know how that goes.
Yeah, we spend 75 days a year on vacation.
Good.
We spend 75 days a year on vacation. So we're already planning out where we're going next.
Now, hold on, before we move forward. So what he's talking about creating a note.
Right.
Chris talked about, hey, my family had this piece of land. They said if you come in with X amount of money down, we'll create this note, which is basically creating a loan. Right. Now, what Troy is talking about at this moment is he's giving you kind of his best practices, which is also kind of like your guideline if you're going to be creating a note. You have to be careful of a certain thing. And just like a bank will pre-qualify you and require you to come in with money down and everything, you as the investor creating the note should do the exact same thing. Because you want to protect yourself. Now, at some point, you can either keep this note for cash flow or you can turn around and sell it to another investor who wants the cash flow.
Absolutely. The beautiful thing about notes is you can sell them in 72 hours or less. I mean, that's the beauty of them because it's a debt instrument. Wall Street does it all the time. So does, you talked about it when you buy a house through the bank, they sell your loan, this and that.
And at this point, you're becoming a fucking bank.
You are a bank. You are the bank. So these are your best practices. These are some typical things that people make mistakes on. They finance the note at 2 or 3 or 4%. And they justify it because Bank of America has a billboard on I-10 that says, 4% rates come in and apply. Well, I'm not Bank of America. You're not Bank of America. They're talking about billions and trillions of dollars worth of loan origination, and they're making percentage points on those big numbers, which is good for them, but you and I aren't dealing at that level. So we have to look at it completely different. Number 2 is the risk factor. People that are buying homes with seller financing, those borrowers are in the bottom 20, typically if they're 620 or lower, they're in the bottom 20 percentile of credit-worthy or creditors, or how do you say, bottom 20 percentile of borrowers in the country.
And that's the thing, guys. If you have to
620 or lower.
You have to remember that if somebody is needing a seller financing scenario, that's because they can't qualify for a traditional loan.
Right.
Mainly because either their credit fucking sucks or they have no way of proving their income. Yeah. That's usually one of the two, but for the most part, it's going to be number 1. Right. Their credit fucking sucks. They had a foreclosure, they had this, they had that, whatever. There's going to be issues that come on that. So you have to protect yourself as the investor to make sure that when you're creating these notes, you're not going to get fucked at the end. You're not going to, you need to create the spread enough for you're able to make the money. Now, some people might say, oh, that's fucked up. You know, Bank of America is charging 2-3%. You're charging 8%. You're a leech. You're taking advantage of people. But trust me, the people that get these things, the people that need them, don't see it that way.
Well, no, because all of us, even myself included, we all have a cost of capital to doing this business. Like you're buying apartment complexes, there's a cost of capital.
Yes.
I mean, I know Corey's doing the same thing. He's rocking the world in there. I know Darren's doing some of that stuff as well. We all have a cost of capital. So that cost of capital plays into the yield spread model at the end of the day when we price it out. But going back to what you were saying, there's a reason why you typically, the majority of the stuff that we see, like our average portfolio credit score is like 642. That's our average portfolio credit score. So that being the case, we're dealing with a lot of bottom tier borrowers. Now, I'm a big believer that, you know, bad things happen to good people all the time.
Always.
And people are going to get knocked down. But that doesn't mean you have to stay down.
Nope.
And that's a personal choice. When they stay down, that's their choice to stay down. And I've seen good people go through a lot of those types of things where they get knocked down, they get back up, they clean up their credit, they get going. And that's what puts them back in the game. Now, when you do seller financing, don't put prepayment penalties in them. It doesn't benefit you. We don't pay any more for them. And all it does is penalize the borrower. If the borrower gets back on their feet, maybe they come at you and they got a 600 credit score and some late fees, some collections, whatever it is. Next thing you know, if they clean that stuff up, now all of a sudden that borrower is a 675, 700, if everything falls into place. And now they can go to Bank of America and they can get what's called a rate and term refi loan. So they can get a 4% rate from Bank of America or Wells Fargo and finance out of that, which at the end of the day, by the way, that only increases your yield as a note holder.
Yep.
So that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yes, you lose the residual income, but your yield immediately goes up and you just take that money and you go put it back in play.
That's what I'm talking about. And guys, once again, if you are not watching this show, if you're not listening to this show, man, even if you're watching this, you're going to have to go back and re-listen to it because Troy is just dropping fucking knowledge bombs left and right. And we're definitely bringing you back. There's a whole bunch of other things that we need to go back in here. So we got a Seeley who says, see you guys in Dallas. Yes, we will see you over there. We got Ryan Harper who says y'all should come out early. He's got a meetup February 12th, DFW. I believe I think I'm going 8th to the 10th. I'm talking in Miami. So if I can make it to your meetup, I will definitely fucking be there. Corey says I need to get on his show. Ryan, reach out to my boy Corey.
Yeah, definitely Corey.
Garen fucking T. He's fucking an amazing dude. Ryan Harper, big shout out to the Kingdom Real Estate. We got Charlie Sullivan joining us. Thank you for joining us here. Roy Rocho says you're all badass. Fuck yeah, you already fucking know. Here, if you're listening to the AZ Flip guys, you know that we're the shit. And you know that we only bring people that are the shit on our show. We're not pushing bullshit. We're not just pushing stuff out there. We're literally giving out value the best way that we can go. Jordan Agbo who says, whoop, whoop. Hey, what's up, Jordan?
Hey,
we got a Ryan Harper who says, Troy, he just sent you a friend request. So make sure you have our boy Ryan Harper, and we can, if we're gonna go over there anyway, might as well show up to the studio, hang out. They got a really cool studio and shit out there. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, let's rip the show while
Yeah, definitely.
I'll come in early if we need to.
We'll knock it out. Charlie Sullivan who says, hey, what's up, guys? Missed the show. I'll have to catch the rewatch. Yes, man. Thank you for joining us here. We got Corey Peterson who says, love you guys and the guest. Oh, man, you already know this. You
Corey,
know, we're a big fan. Yeah, Corey, if you haven't had him on your have you been on Corey's show?
No, we keep messaging each other. We've known each other for 2 years, and we keep messaging
Okay,
each
so
other.
here's what you're going to need to do. Don't message Corey. Corey, send him Sarah's number.
Sarah.
Yeah.
The legend.
Or message his wife and she'll connect you to Sarah. Because trying to deal with Corey's ass, like, fuck that.
His wife is awesome. She's good.
Yeah, Shelly is the best.
I mean, Corey and I spoke together at NASDAQ.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you were saying. Yeah, that's freaking awesome.
That's where I first met him.
We got a Melissa Lutton here who says definitely will be buying the book. Is it also on Amazon Audible? Did you put it on Audible yet? No. So it's just get the book. Read the book. I mean, guys, look, it's a pretty simple. What is it, like 120 pages or something like that? Yeah, pretty standard book now. Let me see. I know I missed this, but does Troy do more performing or non-performing notes? He actually does both, but what are you doing more of?
Right now we're doing probably about 50% performing, about 40% non-performing, and then about 10% education.
Okay. Oh shit, we got Deja in the house. Hey, we still need to go on that fucking date. Mario, we got Mario Valdez. We got our property manager over in Arkansas. Thank you for joining us. So you're doing more performing or non-performing?
Performing.
Perfect. And guys, if you go back on the show and you listen to the replay, especially you, Charlie, we did go into non-performing notes, and we've also got into a little bit of performing. And then on the next show, when we bring them back, we're going to go into the due diligence side of things as to how to look at these, because due diligence on non-performing is going to be different than due diligence on performing.
Right.
Nonetheless, both of them are going to require lots of due diligence.
Right.
So we got
I got a number 5 real quick.
Yeah.
So if you were going to add a number 5 as to how much income should they make based on their payment? Because on our rentals, we like our people to make at least 2.5 to 3 times the rent.
So we run a debt to income ratio on them at about 36 to about 42%.
And you run that on all their debt?
Yes.
36 to 42?
Yeah.
All right. Great.
And guys, these are, once again, what you see on the board right there, the CashFlow Kris has been writing. And for you guys that can't see, you guys are listening to us on podcast land, go back. He's actually gone through. So I'll just say it here for you guys that haven't, that are on podcast and can't see the video. And once again, AZ Flip Guys, Facebook.com/AZ Flip Guys every Friday at noon. And if you guys just want to catch the replay, you're catching us on a fucking podcast somewhere. You say, hey, I want to check out BP's pretty face. He sounds pretty fucking handsome out there. Like, you can go on the video. But nonetheless, best practices, number 1. And these are for when you're creating notes. And this is why I love the concept of notes, because you can buy notes that have already been created. You can buy notes that are performing. You can buy notes that are non-performing. Both of those come with their plus or minuses. They have their issues, but then you can also create notes. You can literally make money up. You can make this shit out of paper, just like we were going to do.
Yeah, you just write a piece of paper and it's worth money. Just like that.
And we were going to do this with an apartment complex. So we bought this apartment complex over in Arkansas. Okay. We bought it for $500,000 all in. That's after our repairs and everything else.
Wow, nice.
Based on the current numbers that we have right now, we had an offer put in at $750,000. Now the guy he's an investor out of California. He was willing to come in with the $500,000 down, and then he wanted us to carry a note for him. So we were going to create a note for the other $250,000, paying at 12% annually. And then it was gonna have a 2-year balloon, so he was gonna balloon out at the end of the year. Okay. So we were gonna get all of our money back. Now we decided not to for capital gains reasons, because we hadn't owned it for a year or whatever. Nonetheless, we were gonna get all of our money back, plus we were gonna create a note from our profit that we were gonna be getting paid an additional 12% on year. So what's 12% on fucking 250? That's 24, 26, like 27,000 or something like that a year, right? So we're going to make an extra $50,000, and then at the end of the 2 years, we're going to get our 250 back, and the guy got an amazing fucking deal. We're able to create notes. Now you're doing it more on the residential side of things, and if you're looking to find creative ways to create cash flow, this is a great way for you to create cash flow. Now, if you're going to create notes, you want to make sure you're using the best practice, which here says you want to make sure that they have at least a 600 credit score. You want to make sure that it's a minimum of 10% down, which is very, very, very important, because if they default, you can just kick them out and then turn around and get another person to come in with 10% down, give them the opportunity. Number 3 is 10 to 20 to 30-year term. So you have to create an amortization schedule. Right. You want to make sure that they're able to pay down their loan as they go. And then you also, number 4, we have a rate of 7 to 9%, which is what he's charging the borrower. So I don't have, my credit's all fucked up. I'm a business owner. I have some money sitting there. I want to buy a house. Troy has a nice house available. It's $200,000. I have 20 grand put in as a down payment. I'm going to put 20 grand down, which means that I owe 180,000 on there. I'm going to be paying back that money at a rate of somewhere between 7 and 9% amortized rate. So basically that tells you what to do. And then number 5, which Kris wrote down here, 36 to 42% debt to income ratio. So when Troy has a property, I'm buying it from Troy. My payments, and I'm just making fucking numbers up here, but my monthly payments are going to be $1,500 a month. I need to be making at least what's that, 3,000, no,
Oh,
35, no, 4,500, right?
Yeah, 3 times.
So I need to be making
And that's
at
if
least
you
3 times.
don't have that big car payment.
Exactly.
You know, he's looking at all total debt, credit cards, car payments, everything, every month.
So you need to make at least 3 to 4 times your rent in order to qualify, plus all these other best practices. This is a great way for you as the investor to protect yourself. This is a great way for you to eventually be able to turn around and sell that note if you wanted to. Because you said with notes, you can actually turn around and sell them within 72 hours if you wanted to. However, you may be like me where you're like, fuck it, I want to keep this motherfucker. Like, I want to cash flow on these things. I'm able to then create cash flow from a property without technically owning the property.
Right.
And that is really the beauty of this. So you can buy this shit, you can buy them with a problem, or you can create these things.
Well, and the cool thing about it is if you've got the notes and they're sitting there and they're cash flowing along the way, then all of a sudden it's what I call the Murphy's Law effect. About the time the best deal you've seen all year comes along is about the same time your money runs out. So if you've got these notes sitting over here, and let's say somebody comes to you and says, here, you can buy these 5 houses, it's $10,000 or $20,000, whatever it is, take them off my hands, but I need it funded, I need it gone in the next, 5 days. Well, you could sell one of the notes, buy the 5 houses, and do the whole thing all over again. Instead of having 1 note, now you got 5 notes cash flowing.
Yep.
And it happens all the time. I mean, the best deals that we find in the note space are typically between December 15th and December 15th and December 31st.
Wow.
Those are the best deals. We see deals like a friend of mine bought a portfolio the other day. It was $92 million. He paid 1.3% on the entire portfolio, but it had to be funded in 24 hours to Bank of America.
Had to get him off the books.
Just boom. And he didn't do due diligence. He didn't have any of those things, but he had a position where he could roll the dice. He had the capital, and he knows some of it's going to just be pure garbage and trash, and it's going to be lost to tax sales and things like that, and he doesn't care because what he paid, he'll know that he'll double or triple his money.
Yes.
But it was us investors, we sit around and we like slow down the process from the outside influences, and we just focus and watch the institutions at the end of the year because we'll get a call and they'll be like, okay, here's the deal. You have 24 to 48 hours to fund it.
Nice.
And it's usually on Christmas Eve. It's usually Christmas Eve stuff or New Year's Eve stuff.
And guys, that is an awesome. I just got another idea, which we're going to have a third show, and it's going to have to be creative ways to do notes, because that's a whole different, obviously the due diligence is one thing. We're going to be getting into the non-performing notes and the performing notes due diligence, but then creating notes and what with real estate, and Ryan said it earlier, it's the wild, wild west.
Oh yeah.
You can basically make up shit as you go. As long
And
as it's legal and
Yeah,
ethical, then it's not, excuse me, as long as you stay within these guidelines, you can make this shit up. Like you could literally be like, okay, well, here's what do. I want this property here. It's in a little bit shittier neighborhood, so I'm going to ask 20% down, and I'm going to allow the guy to come in with a 550 credit score instead of a 600 credit score because X, Y, Z.
Sure.
Like it's not this. These are just practices. These are guidelines. It's not written in stone. However, so we should definitely come back over here. Yeah. We got Ryan Harper, who just put the link to the Amazon page, and we got Darren Ross, who said, boom, that sounds like my kind of deal. That's what I'm talking about. And guys, through real estate, we have the ability to create these. So, Troy, is there anything else that you want to tell our audience here before leaving? Once again, understanding that we're going to come back and we're going to do at least 2 more shows, which is one of them is how to do the due diligence on the notes. And then the second one is just creative ways, either to wholesale or to create cash flow through notes.
Well, we'll come back on the creative ways. I've got a 5-3-2 model that rocks the world for investors. And
dude,
so I can do that.
Seriously, guys, where the fuck else are you going to be getting this type of value? Seriously, guys, where the fuck else are you going to be getting this type of value?
Well, my 5-3-2 model I've used, and I've helped a lot of real estate like fix and flip guys.
So why don't you give a little teaser about that? We won't get into any of the details, but just like your bullet point on that.
So the bullet point on the 5-3-2 model is you buy 5 houses, you sell 3, you keep 2. And I've helped a lot of investors go from the fix and flip, role that they played because it's kind of run its course,
Mm-hmm.
and now they want to get more into residual income. So I show them how to take what they already skilled at, what they're already good at, and just capitalize upon it to move the needle over to being more of a passive investor.
Woo.
And so,
oh man,
by doing,
and I know for a fact because I flipped for many years, and I've also have a lot of friends that are flipping, that most of you motherfuckers have no passive income.
mm-hmm.
Most of you guys have created yourself a job. It's a very high-paying job. It's a very lucrative job. It's a very fulfilling job. It comes with this great fucking prestige, and it's a very sexy job. But at the end of the day, you're not creating any type of cash flow. And that's why we always say at the AZ Flip guys, and we'll end up saying it here at the end of the fucking show, but flip for cash, but hold for wealth.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're constantly going to be flipping and flipping and flipping.
Well, like we went on a cruise in November. My wife and I, and our twins, and then a couple. And he's an investor here in Phoenix, and he does private money lending here in the Phoenix marketplace. But he used to own one of the largest private title companies in Phoenix, and he sold it at the peak of the market. Mm-hmm. So back at before the market downturn. So he had a lot of cash. So he went out and started buying houses at the courthouse steps, and he's got, I think, 48 of them. And it's a cash flow haven for it. And now he's taking all those rental properties, he's turning them all into notes. So I'm walking him through the process. Now, this is a guy who's been in the title business for 45 years, mm-hmm. but showing him, okay, here's what you need to do step by step to make sure that you've got something, because he's 70 years old. Matter of fact, we celebrated his 70th birthday. Yeah. And he's in great health, great shape. He rides his bicycle like 5 miles a day. He's just literally like religiously doing it. But the point being is that he's like, okay, I'm going to pass this on to my family. I'm going to pass this on. He's creating generational wealth is basically what he's doing. So he's getting ready to pass this on to his wife and to his kids and stuff like that. But how do you do that and do it in a clean fashion? How do you set it up for tax reasons and things of that nature to accomplish the goals that you want to? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's very smart and very intelligent gentleman, but he's like, okay, how do we do this? So,
and guys, if you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't know about notes, once again, the power of paper, grab the book. It's a great introduction to notes in general. It's a great place for you guys to do. Troy Fullwood, FULLWOOD.com. You can actually get the book for free. All you have to do is pay for shipping. Man, Troy, this has been a fucking pleasure. This has been amazing. Awesome. There's a lot of great information. I know for a fact, I was here in the room, and I'm going to go back and re-listen to this. There's a lot of great information. There's a lot of great nuggets out there. If you guys got value out of this, do us a favor. Make sure that you share. Make sure that you comment. Make sure that you like. If you're listening to us on podcast land, make sure that you give us a 5-star review. Make sure that you subscribe to us. If you guys are on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, comment, share. Anything that you can do, we'll be really grateful because, as I said, we're not selling anything. We're not pitching anything. This is just our way to give value back to the people. Yeah. We got Marsha Burton here. Last comment who says, "Thank you, Jesus. That's where I'm at. No more flips." And guys, I mean, it is awesome. Insane how many people just get stuck at that place. So anyway, I'm not sure. Am I still on? I don't even fucking know.
Yeah, we're on.
Okay, cool. So anyway, that is CashFlow Kris. This is CashFlow Creator. Make sure you connect with us on Instagram. We are the AZ Flip guys. Once again, reminding you to flip for cash, but more importantly, you got to hold for wealth. Yeah,
yes.
But
have a good weekend, everybody.
Great stuff. All right. Now, how the fuck do I turn this shit off? Oh, I'm on the other fucking. It's all good. This is all B-roll stuff. So
that's where we cut.
And live video. There we go.
That was good.
Did it end? I hope it fucking ended. There we go. Last time it just left us on for a good